Hey guys and gals, it's Mike with Shea Strength Training. I've had a few questions recently about different equipment that a powerlifter might wear when stepping on the platform. So thought I'd do a short video of just some of the equipment that I use. There are many more brands out there. There's different models, different types. These are just the ones that I've tried and have worked for me and I felt like I would stick with. So, as a side note, to start with and kind of clarify things, I compete under the USPA Federation, which is the United States Powerlifting Association. They have different rules and requirements that some of the other leagues or federations might not. So whatever league or federation you're going to compete under, you'll definitely want to look at that rule and see what is allowed to be worn on their platform. So everything today is going to be USPA or IPL or International Powerlifting League within their regulations. So we'll start at this end, work our way down. What I've got first here is my wrist wraps for bench press. Some people will use them for squat also. I prefer not to, just don't really like the feel of it as much. This is Iron Rebel's Rebel version. They also have an Outlaw version, which is a little bit stiffer, doesn't have quite as much stretch. I feel like it's a little bit more on the abrasive side when I wear it, so I've chosen not to. Like I said, I've got a pair, but they pretty much sit up on the wall and are my backups should something happen to this set. I get the 18-inch version. Comes with a little tab on it. Grab it with your thumb. And this one gives me basically 2 good rounds and does a pretty good fit. It keeps the wrist where I want it to be. Like I said, the Outlaw version will do the same thing. This version just tends to be, for me, a little bit more comfortable, so that's what I've stuck with. The first belt that I got, I've stuck with Pioneer belts. My first one was a Pioneer. It's what was recommended to me, so I ordered it. I've had good luck with it. I've had to call customer service a couple of times just with some questions more than any problem, and I've gotten really quick response and have been satisfied with those responses. This first one was a traditional buckle style. Getting the alternating holes gives you a little bit more adjustability than you might get if you had one with just the one-line holes, which is nice because I found that I might set my belt just a little bit different between squat and deadlift. And so having a little bit of variability is nice. Unfortunately, I started to kind of grow out of this one and felt like I wanted to move up a little, what I call up. It's not necessarily up, but move to a lever style, which I chose to go with the Pioneer PAL lever. And what it does is rather than having just 2 teeth here that go into holes on this side of the belt, it's got 4 posts that go into potentially 5 adjustments on this side. So you take the 4 posts and you put them into the groove and then flip the lever back and it's snug. I will sometimes put it on with the lever loose, which you'll see a lot of lifters do. You can walk around like this. It's not very tight at that time. And then before you go to the platform, you pull it tight and it's ready to go. With this one, it also helps me with that difference between squat and deadlift. I can set it here right in the middle when I'm squatting, and then sometimes I'll go 1 notch tighter for deadlift or 1 notch looser, depending on how I'm feeling that day or how training's gone. So those are Pioneer. I've really liked the quality of belt that I've got. And when I've had to call and ask questions, they've been rather responsive and given some satisfying answers. I've got 3 style of knee sleeves here that I've used. I started with Iron Rebel, and I've been happy with them. At one point, it was seemed like the sizing changed just a little bit. So I had found a size that I really liked, bought another pair in the same size, and it felt a little bit on the looser side than what I wanted. So I decided I would try the SBD brand. Um, SBD at that time seemed that it solved that fit problem. What I've noticed more with the SBD is it seemed like it broke down and got a little bit more relaxed quicker than the Iron Rebel. I still use these. I used them a little over a week ago. Uh, I like them when I'm training lighter weights at this point because they have loosened up a little bit. Just provides a little bit of warmth for my knees, so that they seem to track a little bit better and don't give you the old age clicking and bothersome feelings that sometimes you get in your knees and you're at 53 years old. Iron Rebel, if I want to go a little bit heavier and want a little bit more compression, I still use my Iron Rebels because they are a little bit tighter. I feel like they give me a little bit more help coming out of the hole. But on the same token, when I'm lifting light, I want to try and get my knees to strengthen themselves up so I don't need that support as much. So I might go with the SBDs just because they're a little bit more relaxed. When I get closer to competition, then I go to my Inzer Ergo Pros, which are definitely a little bit more expensive. They definitely provide more support. They give you a bit more pop out of the hole in what I feel. So when I am getting close to competition, I start training with these, and these are the only thing I will use on the platform at this time. When I purchased these, Iron Rebel did not have a version comparable to this, but has since developed that, and it is out there. I've questioned maybe moving over and just trying them, but on the same token, these have worked for me, so I don't know why I would necessarily have to switch. Over here, I've got the Iron Rebel Deadlift Socks. I have tried Iron Rebel. I've tried SBD. I've tried Moxie. It's hard to say which one's better than the other than these particular Iron Rebel ones. Are definitely my favorite. Luckily, I ordered 2 pair when I did because they've kind of changed them now and they're not quite as thick and they don't come up quite as high. So their newer versions I'm not as happy with. They do the job, but they're again not as high and not as thick as this version was. And I don't know if they'll go back to it or not. At this point, I'm just hoping these last for quite a while. The newer ones are a little bit thinner, come down about a half inch to an inch shorter on my leg. SBDs were more along the line of this, but they've got almost a rubbery plastic in it that feels a little bit different on my feet and leg. So I found these to be a little bit more comfortable. They do the same job. And again, kind of like the wrist wraps, if the job is done and you can get a little bit more comfort, then I'm going to go with the more comfortable as long as they work the same. Shoes wise, I've gone to the Bearfoot definitely for squat and deadlift. When I started, I got some minimalist New Balance shoes that worked pretty well, but still had a little bit of a sole to them. So then I went to Chuck Taylor's and would use the Chuck Taylor's basically for squat and deadlift only. Gave me a really good feel of the floor because of the thinner and harder sole. But for my feet in particular, the thinness of the toe box made it tough for me to wear them all day. So when I had the Chuck Taylors, a lot of times what I would do is I would wear the Chuck Taylors for squat, change back to the New Balance Minimalist that I had for bench, and then change again back to the Chuck Taylors for deadlift. And my feet felt a lot more comfortable by making those changes. It they just didn't tolerate the Chuck Taylors very well all day. Now, the New Balance solves that problem and gets me closer to the floor with just a very thin sole and a good sized wide toe box. These I can wear all day long and don't have the same issues of feeling crunched by the time I get to deadlift when I've got them on. Sometimes I still change them up just because my feet seem to get through the day a little bit better if I am not on such a thin sole all day. But that's just kind of personal preference. I know a number of people that have bought the Barefoots, and they'll wear them all day long without an issue. Some of them even wear them outside their workouts, and I don't do that. So, but they work pretty well. So those are most of what I'm going to use when I'm training and when I'm competing. The wrist wraps when I'm competing, the belts for squat, deadlift. Yes, I don't wear a belt for bench. I have tried it and didn't feel like there was a whole lot of advantage to it at that point. No disadvantage to it, but one less thing to worry about if I don't need it to feel like I'm doing better. I like the PAL lever version just because I can set it pretty close to where I'm going to need it, and then kind of tweak it as I feel that day to get the good tight feeling. Again, belts aren't supposed to be super tight. You want to have a little bit of space there so that you can expand out to it when you brace. And I'll maybe do a video on how to do that or what I mean by that. SPD, I would say yes, good knee sleeve. Just might break down a little bit quicker than the Iron Rebel. Iron Rebel, I did have issues at one point when I was trying to go from one pair to a new pair that it just, the sizing, the newer pair seemed like it was looser than the old pair, even though the old pair had been worn out. So definitely Inzers are a step up for competition. I would not go on the platform with either of these at this point unless I somehow forgot to bring those. So Deadlift Socks, again, I use Iron Rebel. The older version that I got, really, I think is a step above what I've purchased from them recently. The current ones are good, but just not as good as this. SBD socks are also very good. Just some of the material in there seem to irritate my legs and feet just a little bit more than these. Moxie socks, I didn't touch on that too much. I got those, and the version I got were pretty thin. In fact, the first time I pulled them on, I actually tore the top just a little bit when I was pulling them on. So I haven't put them on again since. Went back and just kept using the good Iron Rebels that I like. Bearfoot Shoes, again, squat, deadlift every time. A lot of times I will bench with them on, depending on the day or what I'm doing. But other times I'll go back to my minimalist New Balance because I like how they feel too when I'm benching. So hopefully there's some good information in what I put out here. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to comment below or comment on the video.